Hey everyone, Amber Duggar here, founder of Profit for Keeps, and I am so excited to be coming live to you today to talk about something that we get asked more than anything else. And it is these incredibly well-intentioned business owners that have picked up the book Profit First and have gone through and read the book at least through chapter 3 and are like, I am doing this. And they open their bank accounts and they start actually implementing Profit First. And the concern is, what am I going to do? I don't have enough money in my business expense account to pay for all the business expenses. So what am I supposed to do with that? How am I supposed to profit first my business if I'm always going to be moving money back and forth between the accounts? So if you have experienced this, or if at one point in time you read the book and you were going, man, this is not going to work for me, this is for you today. So I'm going to be covering a few things. I'm going to be covering really, honestly, what Profit First is for those of you who haven't heard of this concept or are newer to this community. I'm going to be covering who it was really intended for, the original profit assessment, and why this is key to this issue that we're bringing to light today. And then what looks different with an online business and how you can really implement this with an online business, a service-based business, etc. So, hey Teresa, hi from Colorado. Yes, it's so sunny today. I don't know about you. So whoever is coming in watching the replay, I would love for you to just put in a quick hashtag replay. It allows us to see who's really seeing this content, and also so that we can follow up with you if you have any questions, or if you do have any questions, you can put them in here and we'll make sure to get to them. I want to remind you that this is a beautiful, safe, sacred place that is absolutely judgment-free, that is meant to truly empower you, that's meant to help settle your nervous system when it comes to money. We have lived for way too long with a financial industry and an educational system that has failed us in this area, and it's up to us to really empower ourselves with financial literacy. I got so excited I threw my pen. All right, everyone, let's get into this. So Profit First, what is it? Well, it's a really simple concept that was developed by a good friend of mine, Mike Michalowicz, and he had just experienced a bankruptcy in his business. And what he realized from that experience, as we all know there are no failures, only lessons, he realized that, wow, if I actually paid myself first in my business, I would have money left over for everything else. Instead of having the concept of all revenue coming in, paying all the different expenses, and whatever is left is the profit or an afterthought. So that's where this concept Profit First comes from. We have many other videos on this, so I'm not going to go into great detail, but the main concept is that your revenue minus profit equals expenses. So this is how you are paying yourself first. But when you read the book, it gets a little bit more into detail, right? We need to pay ourselves as business owners. We need to set aside taxes, personal taxes, because guess what? If we're paying ourselves, we are definitely going to owe taxes on that money. And if you come from corporate always made sure that they held aside those taxes so that you were never in that position of not being able to pay your taxes. So that there's this new thing as a business owner that you really have to be clear on making sure to put money aside so that you don't, at the end of the year, have a big tax bill that you weren't expecting. And the other part of it, of course, is business expenses, right? Hey, Kelly, nice to see you. Okay, so what Profit First was originally intended for was a business that was well established, that had at least 3 years of financial statements, typically a brick and mortar business, and one that didn't have a lot of autonomy on pricing and expenses. So we're talking dry cleaners, restaurants, landscaping businesses. Now, you could actually argue that all of these industries still have autonomy in pricing, and they still have autonomy in business expenses. But there is no industry that has more autonomy than the online business industry, right? The service-based industry. Because when we look at value-based pricing and we look at the fact that there is an intangible value to going from point A to point B, and that value is also translated into intention and translated into being all in, that you're truly a conduit of investment for your clients. When you're in that type of business, now we have a completely different ballgame, right? You can start an online business with a computer, an internet connection, and a really clear idea. Last time I checked, you can get computer access at the library. The internet is also free at the library, and the idea comes from here, right? So none of that costs any money. So when you look at it from that perspective, now we have so much more opportunity to start making a living with very little expense. Very little expense. So when we're looking at profit first from this perspective, it doesn't really serve us because, one, we don't have financial statements for 3 years. We don't have a brick and mortar business, and we don't have this need to have to incrementally change our profit first percentages that's described in the book, okay? So I don't want to get too much in the detail of the original version of Profit First, but I will leave it with this. In the book, it has you do a profit assessment. Now, again, you can't do a profit assessment if you don't have those financial statements. And if you're newer to business or you've been in online business but you haven't been using a bookkeeper, you're going to not have those financial statements, and then you're going to probably use the industry standards or benchmark percentages that are listed in the book. And that's where most online entrepreneurs get into trouble because they're thinking, okay, I'm going to use these percentages since I don't have my profit assessment available. And I think for under 250,000, it's 5% profit. I think it's 50% business or owner's pay, 25% or 30% business expenses, and 15% taxes. Now, that is absolutely not the percentages you want to be using for an online business. And the reason for that is, first of all, when you're first getting started, getting up to your 100K mark, there's very little expenses. I think I had Acuity Scheduling, Moon Clerk, and that was it. I mean, I really didn't have any business expenses starting out. I needed a way for people to pay me, and I needed a way for people to schedule in. That's all you really need to begin an online business. Now, of course, out of integrity, you must have a service that is getting a very tangible result or an experience in which someone values that experience at the price point that you're charging. Okay, so let me make that very clear. That said, when you have a profit assessment and then you don't have a profit assessment, but then you're looking at the benchmark percentages, then you have, let's say you're making $5,000 a month, and 30% is meant to go to business expenses, that's over $500 more than you really need. And so then it's just sitting there and it doesn't make any sense. But if you're making less than $5,000 and then you're not covering all of your other things, then it gets super confusing and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm moving money from one account to another. What the heck do I do? So this is actually really funny enough. What I came across as a health coach. So let's go back to about 2015. I was living in Bali, Indonesia. I was working with health coaching clients. It was a beautiful experience. I was surrounded by entrepreneurs. And the thing that was asked more than anything was, why are you so peaceful around your money? You're not stressing about money. We have a visa run to Singapore next week. We don't have enough money for it. And so this is where I started to talk more about entrepreneurs, about cash flow management, about the software system I was using to really be clear on settling my own nervous system because I was scared to death when I left corporate, when I left that very secure, steady paycheck to basically plunge into the unknown, have no idea where my next dollar was coming from, and at the same time feeling like, this is do or die. I mean, it was truly like an experience that I would never, ever want to go through again. That said, it was absolutely what I needed because what it stemmed from that was a system I made for myself, which was, I know that I use this software system for my personal finances and it's changed my life. It's an envelope system. For business, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to keep a separate one and I'm going to make sure to put aside some money for taxes, and then I'm going to use this to track the business expenses and pay myself the rest. Well, my business coach said, you should really read this book, Profit First. It's really amazing. And I think it'd really make a lot of sense to you. And I think it would really help you as you're working with other entrepreneurs. So I said, sure. At this time it was a self-published book. At this point, for those of you who have followed the journey of Mike Michalowicz, he was actually turned down by Penguin to have this book published. And it was obviously a big mistake because Penguin came back with their tail between their legs later and said, actually, we do want to do a published version of this. And so you will see a vintage copy of Profit First, which shows a cute little piggy bank on the cover, and then you will see the revised edition, which is done by Penguin, which is white with orange and blue on the cover. So I read the original book, and I only got maybe 2 or 3 chapters in, and I already knew exactly what I was going to do. This book was perfect for the system I used, but I was not going to go through that profit assessment. I was not going to go through finding 3 years of financial statements that were non-existent. I knew that there was a way to reverse engineer the percentages. Now, what I mean by that is instead of using the benchmark percentages in the book, I was thinking, okay, well, I know I want to pay myself X amount every month to cover my expenses back in Virginia and also my expenses in Bali. So I had a specific number that I had listed all of my expenses, and I knew that's how much I wanted to pay myself. And then I had very little business expenses. They were starting to add up a little bit. I had a co-working expense from Bali. I had a Tribe Wanted expense, which was this group that I was in where I was really getting to network with other entrepreneurs. I had a visa run. Every 2 months I had to go to Singapore so that I could re-enter Indonesia without any problem. And of course, I also had, extraneous office expenses. Like if I needed to print something, I would have to pay at the co-working space. So I had a little bit of budget for that as well. So I took those numbers and I sat with it. I thought, how can I come up with a revenue goal that is tied to my personal income, my business income, and then always having that 15 or 20% for taxes and 5 or 10 or 20% for profit. And that's where the reverse engineered or purposeful revenue goal method came from. That's where it was birthed. So that is what we teach here inside this community. It is the most powerful, most empowering thing you can do for yourself. And the reason for that is when you list your expenses, both personal and business, you decide what you want to have as a percentage of tax, which you get from your accountant, and a percentage of profit, which you decide on your own. You can then reverse engineer the revenue goal so that now, instead of just having a 6-figure goal or a 5K a month goal, which that's a whole nother story, you can then have a goal that actually means something to you. It's built up based on what matters most to you. And last time I checked, that's all that matters. Doesn't matter what your neighbor needs, doesn't matter what your business colleague or friend needs, your biz bestie. It doesn't matter what you think you might need in your head from a success metric perspective, right? There's a really big emphasis when you first get started of hitting 6 figures and then hitting $250,000 and then hitting 7 figures and then hitting multi-7 and then 8 figures. There's always this attachment to it. And I see this even with people who are in high 8-figure businesses still being attached to a 9-figure business. And that has never resonated with me. And that is another story as well. This live could go on for 2 hours. But essentially, the reason that this didn't resonate is because I believe very much in the fact that money is a neutral resource. It's a neutral energy. It's not good nor is it bad. So when you look at it from that perspective and you recognize that just like anything else, too much of a resource can kill you, right? I have water here, it sustains my life. But if this entire room was filled with water and I couldn't leave, I would die. So it's never good to have stagnant energy. And money can be very stagnant. It can be something that gets hoarded to the side and never used, and it becomes stagnant. That is not something that we want. We want to be very intentional with our money. It doesn't mean we never save, but we want to be efficient with it. We want to give it purpose. So instead of having benchmark percentages where you're always having to move money back and forth, I encourage you to go through the process of listing out your expenses, which then gets you to reverse engineering your goal. And then this goal is tied to percentages that make sense to you. So for those that are in that position where they aren't having enough money in certain areas, you have a couple of options. You can go through this process, which, by the way, if you're watching this in January, we absolutely have something really exciting on starting the 24th, so just mark that down. I'll give you a little bit more information in a second. But if you're wondering, like, how do I do this? We are going to show you how to do this. So essentially, you want to list your expenses, personal and business. You then want to reverse engineer the goal using the calculator that we'll be providing you. The third thing then is being able to use those unique, individual, customized percentages for you, and then you won't be moving money back and forth. But here's the key thing. If you're not hitting the goal that you determined from the calculator, then you will have the same problem, right? You're not going to have enough money in the different buckets. So, one, I believe extremely in psychocybernetics. If you have not read that book, it's incredible. And I believe that because we have this creative mechanism, once we know in our mind a clear number that's going to get us to being able to experience having enough money in each bucket and have enough money for those expenses and the ones that really, really matter to us, when we know that number, it gives us this beautiful confidence that we have a number that makes sense. And then all of a sudden, when you're out walking or taking a shower, or maybe it's playing with your kids, you have this idea out of nowhere. What if I did this? I could bring my revenue up. Or what if I did this? Or what if I changed my pricing? There's so many other things involved with this. But it gives you your power back. Because I can tell you this is not a community of victims, right? We are all stepping into our empowered financial selves. I call this profit for joy identity of truly saying, you know what, I can figure this out. And I believe in each and every one of you that it's absolutely possible. So just remember that this community is all about seeing how we can do something, not feeling victim to it, okay? So that's the first thing, is looking at the revenue goal. Now, if you're looking and saying, you know what, I know that I can manifest any number, but I feel like I have too many subconscious blocks right now to actually achieve that. The next option is to look at your expenses that you listed and see what you're willing to temporarily put on pause and start playing with the calculator and seeing, if I decided to not do in-person yoga for the next year and instead really take what I've learned and gained and create a home practice and save myself $200 a month. You could take that off, you could recalculate your revenue goal, and you could see where you're at. You can do things like that. You could also decide, you know what, maybe I jumped ship too soon. Maybe I need a 10 or 15 hour a week job to subsidize my owner's pay so that I can still really keep moving forward and know that I have a goal now and I know how to hit it. That's another option. So I really hope this is helpful in clarifying between following the benchmark percentages from the book and creating your own personalized profit first percentages to really take your ownership back of exactly where your money's going and how it's to be allocated when it comes in. So I'm going to just read a few of the comments here. Yeah, Vanessa, I would love to hear if this is making sense. And if you have additional questions about this, I would love to take the opportunity right now to clarify anything I've said, because this is something that thousands of people experience. And this is why I feel so strongly, especially this year, on making a dedicated effort to expand our visibility, because I think that there are too many people in this situation that think that this either doesn't work or that they are feeling like they aren't actually capable of figuring this out, and then hire a fractional CFO who overcharges them and disempowers them by not actually showing them how to do this. So this expansion of visibility this year is so key to really helping so many others reduce this anxiety and shame around this concept. So if you do have any specific questions based on what I've said, please do put them in the comments, and I would love to be able to answer that. Okay, so the other thing is, let's see, Kelly asked, how do you make the mindset switch from putting out fires to confidently trusting this new system? Honestly, Kelly, it's clarity comes with action. That's what I always say. So a lot of times, especially in corporate, when we were bringing in a new system, I would recommend that we always ran things in parallel. And the reason that we would run things in parallel was because we knew the one system, even though it didn't work very well, we knew that system. But then bringing in a new system, we had to see that it worked really well before we could actually significantly transition into that new system. The thing is, most individuals don't actually have a system, right? That it's mostly checking the bank account every day, looking at the expenses that are about to come out, and try to figure out where money can be moved so that it can cover it. And in most people's experiences that I've spoken with, that's not a system they want to run in parallel. So it's truly taking in, and some people are quick starts and just feel intuitively like, I'm going to make this happen. Others are more fact finders and really need a lot more information. I'm the fact finder type. I absolutely am a 9-level fact finder if you've ever done the Colby A. And so for me personally, I need to just learn as much as I possibly can. And so for those of you who that resonates with, I encourage you to go to our YouTube channel, start watching our videos there, the Profit for Joy TV. It is so impactful to start empowering yourself with that knowledge, because then you're starting to plant seeds for yourself. And then it's no longer jumping into a system you don't trust, but you're building that trust within yourself. And I can also say that we have helped over 1,000 entrepreneurs with this, including multi-7-figure entrepreneurs that use this and value this and utilize it on a weekly basis. So as we continue on here, that is honestly the best advice I have for that. Yes, so we have a family and friends event. You all are family and friends, and we would love to invite you to do a much needed 2022 financial reset. It is starting January 24th at 11 a.m. Mountain. It will not be inside this group. We're going to be doing it on Zoom, so I'd love to meet you in person. In person meaning on Zoom. And we're going to be going over exactly how to do this. We're going to show you how to get clear on your expenses, reverse engineer your revenue goal, and really create a 2022 financial plan that will help you be able to no longer be in that position of having to move money around in your buckets. So with that, I will be coming in a little bit later and answering any additional questions from those of you that are watching the replay. I want to thank those that have been asking these questions, as it helps so much with us being able to provide you with the answers that you're really seeking. So I encourage you that if you have a question around money, mindset, wealth expansion, settling the nervous system when it comes to money, profit first, any of your questions, know that nothing is a stupid question here. I love every question that you ask, because then it gives me a much better picture of what I can share with you on these weekly lives. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week. I want to thank you again for being here. Don't forget to sign up at amberduggar.com/challenge. Again, this is going to be on Zoom. It's going to be an epic experience, very intimate. You're going to get personalized attention to help you with this. And then hopefully you will never have to be transferring money from bucket to bucket again. All right, everyone, until next week, I'll talk to you all soon. Much love to you.